Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Now, today I am joined by the beautiful Jessica Conrad. Jessica, how you doing today?
I am doing good. Thank you for having me.
I am super excited to have you. But before we talk about why you're here, Jessica, I would like the people that don't know you to get to know you here for a little bit. Jessica is a nostalgia creator, and what is so amazing about it is you can find her on Instagram and TikTok making these videos that I promise will make you smile, even if you weren't a little scene emo kid back in the day. So I do have her links down here in the description of the video. So make sure that you are clicking those. Make sure you're following her on Instagram, on TikTok, so you can stay up to date on everything she's doing. So I got to know, what got you started in wanting to do all these things that remind us of being back in high school?
That is a great question. So I really have only been doing social media, I guess, seriously for the last, well, let me backtrack a little bit. It's only been really since my career has taken off here about a year. I've been started out, this is my second year doing it. For the first like 6 months, I kind of just joined, just out of boredom. I was working a 9 to 5 corporate job and I had no creative outlet whatsoever. And I desperately needed something to have fun with. And then I think a lot of us fall into, podcasting, YouTube, or, TikTok, anything in general too, just to have fun and to kind of connect with people. And I kind of started my TikTok journey seriously. Oh gosh, 2021, I just joined with no expectations. Fast forward to a year later, it kind of exploded what felt like overnight. And I don't know, it's really funny too, because I guess a lot of people think I have a lot of ties to that certain time frame, which is funny because I really don't. I think for me, I think the ties that I have to it and what holds near and dear to my heart is just the music that came from that era, because that was to me like the best era of music. That's when I started to like broaden my horizons with music, and I'm just like, whoa, all these genres just exist out here. And it just felt like a never-ending library of music to discover. And so I kind of just started at that, had fun, and then I realized that there was kind of a huge market for that there wasn't a whole lot of spaces like that existing on the internet. And I was like, whoa, this is kind of crazy. And so it took off really fast. I was around December of last year, things really exploded out of nowhere. And like 2 months later, Silverstein's reaching out to me and we're collaborating on a project together. And
Oh, that's so sick.
I'm like, I don't even know what to do with myself. So it was really cool. It was really cool how crazy and quick things took off, but it's been a fantastic journey. Let me just say that. So
it's so funny you bring up Silverstein. I don't know if you can see with my stuff here or not, but I literally have a tattoo that says "My heart bleeds no more."
Oh, I love that. I remember you said you loved Silverstein at the beginning, so I'm like, that's so fun.
Yeah,
Oh,
like
I
it's
love
amazing.
them.
And I really suggest you guys check it out. And not only that, but something else that's really cool that I really want to be a little braggadocious about for you. You are starting your own Pandora channel now. Like, and to me,
Hmm.
that is something like that's epic to me. So how did that happen?
Thank
And
you.
how excited are you for this part of your journey?
I'm really excited. That one was really unexpected. I just kind of made connections. I actually went to Aftershock this last October. That was my first time at a music festival. I came out and actually worked it. And so I was running the whole festival's TikTok page for the weekend. And so I met a lot of people, just got a lot of, connected to a lot of people in the industry and met like some of my idols and people
Yeah.
whose faces I used to have plastered on my wall. I'm just like here in the flesh with these people. And I'm just like I felt
Right.
like I didn't know what to do. So that kind of landed in my lap, and I'm really, really excited to have this. So now I'm curating my own Pandora radio. And so it's crazy. So you get like voice drops from me. You hear me, kind of talk a little bit about, how I came across this band or how I know this band personally. And I try to incorporate a lot of small bands that are on the rise, that are, on the rate, like not on people's radars, not ones that are, going on sellout tours, the ones that are,
Sure.
trying to make a name for themselves. And that's kind of where I wanted to use that platform. And I definitely had to include a lot of like bands that I'm listening to now as well that are big, but I wanted it to primarily be the focus to uplift bands who are trying to make it in the industry. So it's really cool to give, not only have a platform for myself to be able to share that, but like help uplift these other artists who are, wanting to make their dreams come true.
And that's amazing. And you were talking about how it kind of blew up overnight. And I'm going to be honest with you, that doesn't surprise me because the quality of your content, it's not just the nostalgia part, but there are parts where, you genuinely laugh out loud. Where there's parts where it's like, and it's because of the nostalgia, but also because of just great writing and great timing. So,
Thank you.
it's amazing. And this is such an honor for me to be able to have you here. And, um, growing up a big punk rock emo fan, what do you think is your biggest pat on the back success for you personally so far?
Oh boy. Oh man. I would say all of last year was really crazy. Like I said, that was like I said, my channel kind of took off. It was like December of 2021. I uploaded this video and just boom, it went viral overnight. I didn't actually have plans to post this video because it was kind of like in talks to be like a promo for a brand, and then they were kind of backed out of it. But I was like, it's too good, we're just gonna post it. Blew up overnight. My Instagram, I posted that video in December of 2021. I have 2,800 followers. By July of last year, I hit 100K.
That's amazing.
And I was so shocked, and it was just so crazy. So like I said, I like Silverstein. That was one of my first collaborations I had as a content creator, was working with one of my all-time favorite bands, and that was surreal. I've gotten to meet a lot of people. I think this year is going to be a big year. I can't say all the things I'm doing
I get it.
yet, just because they haven't come to fruition just yet. But I'm really excited to be working with a lot of brands and just a lot of companies that I have idolized, and it's really cool. Like, I just have to constantly pinch myself that this is my life. Anytime I wake up every day and I just go, who's going to reach out to me? It's someone, like, I don't know. It's crazy, to see it, like, on your TV or, on your phone. You're like, oh, this is so cool. But then, like, getting to meet people and just, yeah, I can't even describe it. It's so crazy. So.
And it's one of those things where you guys, like I said, a lot of the stuff she has coming up, obviously with NDAs and stuff like that, she can't talk about it. But you can be one of the first to know if you follow her on social media down here in the description. So now, obviously, you're a big fan of music, but I'm a huge fan of movies. And something that I like to know is what people's first horror movie was. So, Jessica, that's what I want to talk about here for a little bit. Let's go back to the past and talk about the horror movie that you watched. And Jessica, your first horror movie was?
Paranormal Activity. I was 17 years old. I was a very late bloomer. Very late.
Better late than never. And the good thing about Paranormal Activity is that movie broke records that were previously set by the Blair Witch Project, for the budget against what it brought in. And it still, to this day, I believe, up until Terrifier 2, held that record, which is super amazing. So do you remember who you were with the first time that you watched it?
Yes, I was with one of my really good friends from high school. So, little tidbit about me, and it surprises people a lot that I am not a big horror person, and this is so sad to say, but like, I have like so much of an imagination that, like, I realized very young that if I watched anything like remotely scary, it would just, like, can I swear on this podcast? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Or is that no?
Oh, yeah.
It would like fuck with me for months on end. Which, that's a really scary realization to have, that your imagination is that broad at such a young age. So I watched it with one of my really good girlfriends from high school, and she kind of had to like warn me. I wanted to watch it just because I wanted to just say that I did it. And so I did, but she definitely like kind of let me know like what parts were like jump scares and stuff, because I don't do well with stuff like that. Like, I guess what's really funny about me is I like the idea of horror, but then when it actually comes to watching it and seeing it, it's like a totally different thing. And I don't know how to explain it, but I don't know if anybody feels that way. It's a strange opinion. So,
well, the good thing about it is you don't always have to be a diehard horror fan. Because I agree with you. Like, me personally, I've been a horror fan my whole life. I don't go to haunted houses just because they scare the hell out of me. I don't like jump scares. I don't like stuff like that. So you talked a little bit about jump scares and stuff, but what scene would you say it was that affected you the most from Paranormal Activity?
Oh boy. So this is a little tidbit. So my grandma grew up, this is like a little backstory. My grandma literally lives in the middle of nowhere in the woods. And there's like no civilization. And so there's always like weird things. So like growing up and going to my grandma's house, there was always these like strange things. And so I guess I don't do like super well with jump scares because we always joked that the grandma's house was haunted. And I
Sure.
remember when I was watching that movie, there was like that scene with like the mat, like the sheets just bubble over and it's just like a gust. And I also want to disclose too, when I first saw this movie, I did not realize it was a fictional story. I thought it was real.
Great
And I
marketing.
think yeah, and I think that's what scared me. I was like, oh my God, like it was absolutely terrifying to me. But then when I realized, oh, this was not an actual like fictional movie, I go, okay, I felt a little bit better, but still like the idea of it was a little scary. There's also like that one scene towards the end where, granted, I haven't seen this movie in a long time, but she's like slumped over and I think she like stabbed her partner, or not to spoil it for anybody, and she's like slumped over and just like pulsating, and you just see the camera, and she's got like her hair covered all over her. And then I think like, I want to say again, this is how much it affected me. I remember this still. I've only seen it once. Like somebody comes knocking at the door, and I was like, that messed me up so bad because I hate the dark as is. Like even when I like in the middle of the night when my house is dark, I hate just like I don't get like turn the light on and I still have like those weird like superstitions. I'm like, oh, you're not gonna get me those sleep paralysis demons hiding in the
Right.
house. Like that's me still to this day at 30 years old. So
Well, I mean, and you talk about, you only seen this movie the one time. This obviously Paranormal Activity is a huge franchise now.
oh,
Um,
absolutely.
is this have you seen all the movies in the franchise or have you only seen the first one?
I've only seen the first one. I can do a little bit of like suspense. I haven't watched that one. I grew up watching a lot of Criminal Minds, like as somebody who was probably way too young to be watching that show. And that show was so graphic too. I think it kind of just like kept me away from a lot of the horror stuff. I don't know. I haven't, maybe I should watch them. Maybe I should. Maybe I'll change my mind about it now that I'm like an adult, but I'm like, I got this. I mean, but we'll see.
Well, I mean, and obviously horror is something that, it is universal. And, Paranormal Activity was your first horror movie. But now here for a second, I kind of want to go scream Ghostface on you here for a second.
What's your favorite scary movie?
I don't know if you'd classify this as a scary movie. I would say like a scary comedy movie. I love Zombieland. I think it's scary, funny, but it like balances out. Like that's also
Yeah.
a really irrational fear that I have too. I am absolutely terrified of zombies. That is one thing where just my mind just cannot comprehend it. It just goes, shut it down, or like I can't handle it. But I love that movie. I think it is so funny. But again, I'm not like I also am a big giant baby. So
Well, I mean, and honestly, I do consider Zombieland horror. And something I've always said is horror is subjective. Like,
yeah.
horror to me is the hardest genre to lock down and say this is or this isn't a horror movie because you can't say, well, it's got to have death. The Lion King has death.
It's
It's got
true.
to have jump scares. Pee-wee's Big Adventure has jump scares in it.
That's true.
So for me to say something is horror, it's really subjective on not only what you're watching, but your own personal experiences. There's
Hmm.
movies to me, like I think like The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, Flowers in the Attic. A lot of people consider those like Lifetime dramas, and I think they're straight up horror movies. So, to me, it's always subjective and what they mean to you. Now, another thing I wanted to ask you with Paranormal Activity, when you went into this, you said you thought it was, more of like a documentary style film. Do you think that if you would have known that it was a work of fiction going in, that it would have affected you as much? Or do you think that it would have still been, just as effective? Or do you think you would have maybe taken it with a more of a grain of salt if you knew it was a work of fiction?
I think it may have been. I think it would have been easier for me to kind of take it like a grain of salt. I still think the idea, and that's one of those things that I still struggle with. Once that idea gets planted, it's hard to like unsee that. So even though like knowing it's fictional, like still seeing it, I don't know why maybe it's like a weird thing that I had, but like seeing something fictionally that like your brain can think of, but then like seeing it in front of your eyes, I feel like it's a
Yeah.
very different thing. Like for example, like I love Ice Nine Kills and I love the idea of horror music, but I cannot muster up the courage to watch half of those movies. So But
And-
I mean,
and
it makes no sense. But
another thing you just said, I've always felt like there's nothing scarier than our imagination. There's nothing you can
Mhm.
put on a screen that's going to scare me more than what I can see in my brain. Now, before I let you go, I always end these with the same question, Jessica. And I'm going to go back to Paranormal Activity. And what we're going to do is rank this movie on a skull count. Now, we're not ranking it on acting, production, score, nothing like that. What we're doing is strictly ranking Paranormal Activity on how much it affected you on your first viewing. So, 0 skulls being not effective,
okay.
5 being extremely effective. You can use half and quarter skulls anywhere in the middle. Jessica, what would your ranking of Paranormal Activity be?
So 5 is the max, you said, right? So 0 to 5. I would say I'd say like a 3.5 to a 4, I want to say.
Well, and I mean, a movie that obviously it affected you so much you haven't watched it since. Um, I would love if you could text me after you do watch it. I would love to see what your input is on it now, like you said, as a 30-year-old. But I said it at the beginning, guys, and I want to remind you guys, all of her social media links are down here in the description. And I know she's talked about how she's blown up, but this is just the beginning. The sky's the limit. I think 2023 is going to be a much bigger year than what you've had already. And you guys can be a part of that by following her on social media. Like I said, you're going to be subscribing to the Pandora channel. Make sure you're following on TikTok and Instagram. Jessica, please don't go anywhere. I got a couple more questions for you.
Yes.
Everybody else, as always, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.